Thank you, Walter, so much for such a kind and extensive introduction. And this is a really, I admire you in the same way that, and admire the Center for everything that it is doing for all of us at Wayne State and exposing us to so many projects. And it has grown tremendously in the last few years with so many possibilities for students and for faculty. Thank you so much, Walter. It is my pleasure to talk to you about my research today. I am doing extensive research on the Gulf. I'm very interested in the Gulf itself, where I lived for a long time, where I know the people, the language, and the culture extensively well. I also am very interested in women and the fight, the struggle, and I am glad to say the really breakthroughs that I see from that kind of experience. And I'm also very fascinated by the field of oral history, which I use to depict things that are not recorded. As my students in oral history know, I am passionate about this because I feel that it is the voice of those who are marginalized that has to be put. And this is what I am planning to talk about, which is women's rights. And I have singled out Bahrain, and particularly in the political arena. While I'm talking, you can read this, which I will not be, I'll be referring to it generally, but it's basically to tell you the background. You know, I have used oral interviews as well as documented material for the research I'm writing. This is only a small, tiny part from a very large and much larger project, is what I'm talking about today. It is also a very particular time for Bahrain. They are undergoing national elections for the parliament and for the municipal councils, where women are running. Some, I mean, they are pushed, some are given by default positions, but there is lots of politics in everything that goes around there. In order to properly situate the topic, and because I know some of you have no idea where things are, this is the Gulf. You all know what the Gulf is. I don't need to go into the geography, but I need to situate it in terms of the participants, in terms the regional as well as the global recent history, which has brought phenomenal changes to the region and to its people. Although this is common to all the Gulf region, it is also strongly felt in Bahrain in particular. You all know about oil. It's very important to all of us. Oil is the main attraction that brought Britain's colonial presence in the Gulf, which remained until the 70s. And it is continued by US presence in the region, okay? Also, as such, it was imperative to these powers, particularly the US, to move the economies of the Gulf region into the global economic sphere. This is what we talk about globalization. And the process, although started early on, since independence from the British in 1971, it has accelerated incredibly in the last 20 years. It has incorporated the region into the Western pattern of the process of globalization. Even though they don't feel it, they don't want to talk about it, but it is there. While this brought in international banks, transnational corporations, as well as international and regional investment, along with all of this came various forms of foreign Western political influence, direct and indirect. In addition to military bases, US bases are all over the place. I'm sorry, this map is not good enough for me to really show you. All over the seas as well as inland. The personnel, Western personnel, economic institutions, social and cultural mores and ways have also invaded the societies of the Gulf. At the same time, if you know a little bit about the history of the region, you should remember the regional history. 1979 was the Iranian Revolution. 1980 to 82 to 88 was the Iran-Iraq War. 90 to 91 was the occupation of Kuwait, which immediately brought American presence, physical presence, then into the region. And also don't forget 9/11, 2001, and the repercussions on our politics, our history. I am trying to build the global as well as the regional picture. Both circles impact what the people are going through. And I want you to keep that in mind. The picture is not just jumping into the Gulf or jumping into one area. You have to understand that they are undergoing a tumultuous type of change and influences that has been going on. I call it a tsunami of accelerated change. And but it's very interesting to learn that in spite of all this, you remember the 2008 meltdown, the economic meltdown, global. The Gulf weathered it very, very well. Why? Because it has been undergoing incredible outposts, such events where the price of oil falls down, they find themselves without money, then things accelerate, they find themselves with too much money. So they built these wealth funds, government wealth funds that they were able to help the international community with, and they themselves today are very strong and that they are sanguine a little bit about it. They feel smug somewhat, but there are lots of uncertainties that they also know, political and social uncertainties. It's a moment of paradoxes for the Gulf region. They are triumphant, optimistic, but they have unresolved vision for what the future holds. It is uncertainty very much there. The only confirmed certainty for the Gulf is oil. The oil is there. It has been confirmed that there is enough reserves of oil to last till the 22nd century. So that gives them the smugness. It has also, this translated itself into something else, which is an entrenchment of the status quo. This is something to remember. The governments of the Gulf, which are authoritarian, repressive, generally, but they have a people who are happy with the lining of their pockets. There is enough money, and now they are strong enough to do it, and they believe that they really do not have to explain their reform and democracy plans, which are in many ways hazy and a phantom, in many ways not completely real. But at the same time, the logic they follow is that when people's pockets are well lined, they don't question too much. And this is going on in the region. I have to learn. These are the signs of globalization that I was talking about. They are very clearly, this is Dubai, okay? And the one before it is Bahrain. Bahrain, however, has not experienced what the others have. Bahrain is the poorer cousin, and large sections of the population feel a legacy of disenfranchisement and discrimination. It's obvious that the Shia population, which make at least 60%, and that's on the conservative side, maybe 70%, as the Shias themselves believe, they are the downtrodden, the disenfranchised, and they are discriminated against. They, along with the leftists, with the progressive elements, are discriminated against in economic distribution, in employment, education, and services. And since independence, the Bahraini scene has been plagued with recurring political turmoil, at intervals erupting into violence, which has been going on now since last month. Last month was very heavy. It has quietened down in preparation